Last week, by the end of the class, we asked everybody to do a verse mapping in John, which is the verse on abiding in Christ. So that's why I've asked everybody kind of share a little bit of a method that we have taught last week. Now, so don't worry if you're still lost and not sure what we have done last week. And today we're going to repeat the whole process again so that you will know, really hammer into our head that we can do it every day in a devotion, okay? So don't worry if you are, I'm totally lost last week. I don't know what you're doing, or like here and there, you know. So don't worry, we're going to do the whole thing again, but on a different verse. Okay, so you'll be able to relive those process again, and hopefully that will be something that will etch in your head for the rest of your life, that you will really use in your devotions. Because I think this is really something that I'm really hoping for this class is something that will really change our lives. It's not a subject that you learn and put on a shelf, okay? This is something that will change and transform and make you fall in love with God's word, okay? So this is my hope for you. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to ask a quick quiz here. Okay. Since we have talked about these 3 steps already, let me ask, how many of you have watched the video I sent on applications? Anyone? Okay. Okay, wonderful. Okay, I hope that it has given you more examples of what applications is about, because last time we didn't have much time dig deeper into each one of the categories. So I hope the videos have helped you to understand a little bit more. So let's have a quick quiz here, okay? So what is the first step again in the Bible study method? Anyone remember what was the first step? Okay.
Observation.
Observation. And under observation, what do we ask ourselves? So who, what, when, where, why, how? Okay, who, what, when, where, why, how? So under observation, we ask these questions: who, what, when, where, why, how. We ask the question, what do I see? Okay, so under how, we have looked at repeated words, keywords, the context, contrast, comparison, cause and effect, and the verbs. Okay, so this is what we have looked at, okay, at the first and the second sessions. Okay, what about the second step of Bible study methods? Anyone remember what's the second step?
Interpretation.
Interpretation. What kind of question we ask under interpretation? So do you mind answer this question for us?
Okay,
Yes.
What does it mean?
Yes.
And there are 3 C's. The first C is see the meaning of the word
Yes.
or the keywords, and then there's and another C is context. Others, so I have to read it.
I gave you the answer there.
Okay, the historical, cultural background, and the last C, correlation. How does it fit with the whole Bible and the book?
Yeah.
I
Excellent.
tried to memorize it.
You gotta
but
remember.
it's
Okay, I should undo this. So
It's
okay. So I think, okay, 3 C's, right? We all remember C, the keywords, right? We look up the meaning of the keywords. Once we observe the keywords, right? We looked at couple different apps, the inductive Bible study apps. Remember, I asked everybody to download it into your phone. This is such a good good app that all of us should be able to use it on a daily basis. Very easy to use. Blue Letter Bible apps. And when we talk about the context, we have used the Insight for Living website. If you remember, we went to the website to look for the context, who wrote the book, where was it written, and the theme, what's the big idea of the book. Okay, so, and then the Bible chart. Okay, so if you don't remember, go back to the videos again, which is the previous videos that there was a longer session explaining how you should look for different things. Okay, and the last but not least, correlation. How does it work, right? We have looked at different translations based on one verse, right? We look at different translations to look up what are some of the differences or similarities. For example, King James and versus the Message or versus NIV, they all have a different wordings, right? Even in the same verse. We also looked at cross-referencing of the verse. How is that related to the rest of the Bible? So don't worry if you're still lost. Don't worry, we're going to do everything again, okay? So for sure, by the end of this course, you will have this to your heart, okay? And you can tell people in a breeze. Oh, no problem. Very easy. You can explain it. Okay, last but not least, the last step. Anyone remember what's the last step? Application. Yes. So under application, what do we ask? What's the question we ask?
How does it work?
How does it work? Yes. So what are the 5 things that we have talked about under applications?
Prayer,
Yes.
sin,
Sin. Yes. Sin.
command,
Command.
challenge,
Challenge.
promise.
Promise. Yes. Very good. Excellent. Wow. I'm so impressed. All of you are 100, like A+ student. Very good. Excellent. Okay. So here are the 5 things that we talked about. And in the videos, I gave you specific examples for each categories because I sensed that last time we were a little bit confused between challenges and commands. So I gave you some example. The commands are, that something is very spelled out very specifically. God wants us to follow. For example, the 10 commandments, the Great Commissions. The challenge would be, anyone remember what the challenge is when I talk about in the video? What kind of challenge that we talk about in the video? Anyone remember? So I gave some examples in the Bible. Some are good, some are bad examples in the Bible that we can follow, right? Some of the good examples be David, the young David, Joseph, and some of the bad example we should avoid. Okay, so we gave some example there. All right. Okay, so let us move on. This is what we talked about last week under applications. Prayer, command, sins, or error, promise, and challenge. Okay. And let me just quickly review. This is something that we've done last week. We've done the verse mapping where I asked everybody to download this app. Okay. And then we've gone through the process of verse mapping. How can we start verse mapping? Praying, read the whole book and passage a few times so that you will know the flow and the context when we do verse mapping, so that we don't just take one verse out without understanding the context. So even though we've been just focusing on verse mapping, but please remember, you have to read before and after the verses to gain insight of the context, because otherwise it's quite dangerous if we just take one verse out of its context. So remember that you read what happened before and after. Pick a verse to study. That's what we did. Okay, so last week we have talked about writing one verse in the center of the page where you leave lots of space around it. Okay, and then we've gone through the process of highlighting the keywords, right? So we first off highlighting the keywords, and then we went to this inductive Bible study apps to find out the meaning of these keywords. So we put the bubbles around it. And then afterwards, I asked everybody to think of reflections, applications to our lives. So this is what we have done on one page. Okay, so observation in one page. And then I also asked optional, which is also crucial, especially if you're preparing your devotional messages in the future. You will also want to write down the context, who wrote the book, why and what the purpose of the book is being written. So there are a few places where you can look up these informations. Insight for Living is one of them, and Blue Letter Bible also. Of course, there are other websites you can look up these information. And last but not least, correlation. Okay, I talk about maybe you can write down one more verse, one more translation besides what you're studying right now. It could be another translation, NIV or ESV or other translation, just to compare what are some of the differences or similarity of the verse that you're reading. Okay, and then you can do a word study. I will walk you through again. So by studying one word and then go back to see what the cross references that related to that word, what other verses, how they explain this verse. Okay, so this is what we've done last week. Okay, how many of you lost already? Raise your hand. You're so lost. You don't know what I'm talking about. Thank you, Ruby. Okay, thank you so much for being so honest. And you will be staying with me after class. Okay, I've asked some of you to stay behind to after class so that I can explain a little bit more. Okay, so don't be shy if you're still lost, you don't understand what I'm talking about. You feel free to stay behind for another half an hour with me afterwards, because I will explain everything again. But today we're going to walk through this whole thing again. again. Okay, so hopefully by the end of this class, you will be, much clear of what verse mapping is about. Okay, and what we've been studying so far. This is the whole package of Bible study method right in front of you. This is the whole package right here. And congratulate yourself. Give yourself a pat in the back. You've done it. Okay, this is BSM, what Bible study method is about. And you can do it every day. You don't have to wait until you preach and do it. Okay, you don't have to wait until you prepare a message to do it. You can do it in your daily life, okay, in your devotions. And that's my prayer for every one of us. This is a practice I do for verse mapping for my day on a daily basis. Okay, this is how I do my devotions, and I find it very fruitful. All right, and we talked about last week, application is to transform our lives. Okay, there's no point for us to accumulate a lot of knowledge, but it doesn't transform our lives. Okay, I talked so much now. Let's get to work. Okay, all right. So what we're going to do now, we're going to walk through the whole process again, but on a different verse. So today I will send you all to do this verse, which is my favorite verse. I have many favorite verses. All the verses I've been asking you to do is all my favorite verses because they have changed my life forever. Start from Ephesians 2:10, that we have to recognize how simple we were and we're saved by God. Now we have a purpose in life, that we are his masterpiece to do the good works that he had prepared for us. And the second verse, I asked you to do the abide, right? We cannot do what God wants us to do unless we abide in him. Otherwise, we cannot bear fruits. So I hope you will also learn so much from this verse and glean from it. We cannot be God's masterpiece if we don't abide in him. And today, this is another great verse. It's about transforming our mind and heart. There's no way we can recognize God's will in our lives if our mind is not renewed and transformed continually. Okay, so this is a verse that I want us to study today. So let me ask you, okay, what is the first step for us when we see a verse like this? Anyone can tell me? And what's the first step? Okay.
Highlight the keywords.
Yes, very good. So observation, right? Highlight the keywords. Okay, very good. How about the second step we need to do? After we highlight the keywords, what should we do next?
Look at the verse before and after.
Yeah, very good. Yes. So under interpretation, we will look at the context, right? We look at the verses before and after. What else we should do with the keywords? What should we do with that?
Get the meaning of the keywords.
Yes, very good. Excellent. Okay. And then what? And then next, what's next after that? So now we know the meaning, we highlight the keywords, we observe the passage, we read before and after, get a flow of the passage, and then what should we do?
References, compare with other verses.
Yes, cross-references, compare with other verses, and also we can look up other translations, right? Besides this translation in front of us, we can look at NIV, the Message, NLT. So there's so many options that we can compare the translation between these verses. How about the last step? What should we do? Should we end here? What's the last step?
Application.
Yeah, that's right. Applications. So what are the application we need to look for? The 5 things that we talked about. Anyone remember again?
The sin or the error, the command, is it correct? Command, and then the promise, the challenge, and the prayer.
Yeah, bing, 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 bing. All right, you all know what to do. Awesome. Oh, I can just turn the mic off and let you all go off and do this on your own, okay? So this is the 3 steps, okay? When we approach a verse like this, to be honest with you, once you know these steps, you can attack any passages in the Bible. Any passages, you can know how to read it by using these 3 steps. So I just want to give you a mini version of this so that when you get a hang of these skills, you can apply it in other places, okay? So this steps that we've been talking, you can apply it to any other passages in the Bible. All right, so let's go over the first step, okay? So let's highlight the keywords. Now, if you have a piece of paper in front of you, I would love for you to start writing it at the middle of your page. And you want to spend some time. What are some of the keywords that you see from here? Well, some keywords, cause and effects, maybe some contrast, connective words and verbs. Okay, so I'll give you 5 minutes. Okay, use a piece of paper, write the verse in the middle of your page, and then highlight some of the keywords that you see. Okay, if you need to go grab a piece of paper, don't worry, just go grab a piece of paper somewhere else and come back if you don't have it in front of you. And I'll give you 5 minutes to look up the key words. All right. So I hope you have some answers there. Okay. First, let's go over some of the key words that you see here. Okay. So without me telling you, just feel free to open your mic and tell me what are some of the key words that you see. Anyone would like to share what are some of the key words that you see there? Okay. All right. So you guys did a great job. Let me kind of highlight it for you. You guys have kind of mentioned it already. So this is what I've done. Okay. So I've done a color coding, as you can see here. Okay. All the keywords are all in purple. Okay. You can see, which is all of you have mentioned already. All the keywords are there. Conform, world, transformed, because I have to use it for the verb as well. So I don't know what color to put. Okay, but transform also a keyword, okay? And renew your mind and test, approve, and good and pleasing perfect will. Okay, so cause and effect I have done, right? You know this comparing the contrast and before. I mean the cause and effect. Okay, so let me just go through here. The first one I want you to pay attention to is the and. Do you see the and there? What does it mean? Usually, it means it connected to something else, right? Something beforehand, okay? So when we see a connective word like this, we need to know, go back to the previous verse or verses. What have been talking here, you know? So this is it's like someone in a conversation, right? You kind of interrupted in the middle of the conversation. So you kind of want to find out what has been said earlier, okay? Whenever you see a connective word like this, you need to go back to the previous verses. So the previous verses talking about, therefore, I urge you, brother, sister, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. So how can we do that? So in order to offer yourself as a living sacrifice, Paul is continuing explaining, you need to be transformed. You need to renew your mind so that you'll be able to know what God's will is about. Okay, this is a continuation of that discussion. Okay, now you see another word here, contrast, right? But, okay, what is being contrast here? What it is talking about here? Okay, some of you have mentioned it earlier, that don't follow of the world, but instead being transformed. So instead of conforming to the pattern of this world, we need to be transformed by renewing of our mind. Okay, so that would be a contrast. Okay, cause and effect, right? We see a contrast, cause and effect here. So after being transformed by renewing your mind, we can then test and approve God's will. Do you see the sequence here? We cannot, cause and effect, we cannot, test and approve God's will unless our mind is being transformed, unless alive, our mind is being renewed and being transformed. Okay, so we see a cause and effect. Only if we start renewing our mind, only if we stop conforming to the pattern of this world, then we'll be able to test and prove what God's will is. Okay, so you see a cause and effect there. Okay, another one, verbs. There's many verbs here. Okay, do not, be transformed, and will be. Okay, if you study it closely, do not is always true, right? So it's a command that we don't conform to the pattern of this world. And be transformed is a passive voice, right? We need to be transformed by continually renewing. It's a continuing verb, okay? That we need to continue renewing our mind. And after that, you'll be able to test and prove what God's will is. So you see the verbs here, because by noticing the verb, you know the sequence, right? What needs to be done first? Anyone can make a comment here. What has to be done first in this verse? What needs to be done first?
You should not be conformed.
Yeah. Should not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed. Okay, so the verb also help us to understand the sequence. We need to be transformed first so that we will be able to know God's will. Okay, so does it make sense? Yes, makes sense? Okay, is it clear, the examples that I demonstrated for you? Okay, understand everyone? Okay, very good.